How concerning is it that Utah currently has no player in the class of 2026 in the state committed to them?
So this class is honestly just incredible. Let's start out with that. When you have Brock Harris, who I love, his dad is amazing. His whole family is amazing. When I first met Brock, he legitimately scared me, and that's hard to do. It's usually basketball players that do that. But it's very concerning that there's no committed 26 players. Not like to the point where you're like, okay, the sky is falling by any stretch, but you have top players in this class. I mean, you've got Isun Talfa, who's committed to Washington out of Corner Canyon. You've got Taden Kava'a at quarterback. You've got Salisi Moa. He's an athlete that you've got Oregon. You've got USC. You've got so many schools coming in to see Salisi. Brock Harris, who I've already mentioned. Helaman Kasuga, committed to Texas A&M. Bob Muitolo, committed to Oregon. You've got the Pula twins, committed to UCLA. You've got Ami Mawala, committed to Oregon as well. You've got Isa Nalier. You've got Keo Akana. You've got Adam Bywater. I really like Adam as well. He's just in the suburbs of Salt Lake at Olympus. Graham Livingston already has an offer from Utah, had 1,600 yards this last year. I mean, you've got Tongi Havea, 6'6", 300 pounds coming out of Lehigh. Legend Glasker blew my mind last year. He was an absolute dog. Ifo Peely at edge at Granger, 6'5", 255. PJ Takitaki's committed to BYU. Devon Eka, he's a running back out of Lehigh that's really, really good as well. You've got Jesse King at Timpanogos. I mean, Brighton Niu. I haven't even gotten to Brighton, and I love Brighton out of Lehigh. He's got offers to Oklahoma. You've got the Moala kid out of Kaysville, out of Davis. You've got Kai Meza, Tully Benjamin out of Lehigh at Skyridge. I mean, all of these kids, Miller Carter, Coniel Sweetwine, Kai Wesley has offers all over the country, 6'7", 235. I mean, you look at this class and you're just like, if Utah doesn't land some of these kids, I think the fans are going to riot because this class is so important. This class, if BYU beats Utah in it, Utah no longer has the P4 affiliation that BYU didn't have for years. There was an uneven playing field. When I was coming out, I was like, if you don't go to Utah, you're an idiot because you're playing against top competition. Now that playing field is even.
Yeah.
Utah doesn't have this huge budget for recruiting where BYU doesn't. They're even members starting in 2025. So Utah has a little bit of a financial boost right now over BYU, but that dissipates in July of this year. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next little bit. But I think Utah can land some of these kids, but they're going to have to recruit like they've never recruited before.
Well, what's hurts Utah is they're not just going against BYU. BYU only has one player so far in the class of 26, at least on 24/7 Sports' rankings of the top football recruits in Utah committed to them. The rest are Big Ten and even SEC bound. And I think that's the concerning thing. That's actually, unfortunately, they're all former Pac-12 school bound, but they are, of course, getting that Big Ten money. So that's where it really hurts. And I think that's something that the gap in NIL is something that's going to continue to be a problem. We saw last year, Jerome Miles silently committed to Utah. Then he bounces around from SEC school to Big Ten school. We got Aaron Dunn is another guy who ends up leaving Utah to go for a Big Ten school. And there's been other guys too who continue to end up going for the Big Ten and SEC over a Big 12 squad. So I think that makes it tough, not just for Utah, but BYU as well, Moose, right? You're not just competing to keep guys in the state. Now you're trying to offer them as much NIL as you can, or at least enough to compete with what the big dogs can offer.
Yeah, it was interesting. In years prior, a lot of schools were like, oh, we don't even go to Utah. That's a flyover state. Nowadays, when you have teams like Corner Canyon beating IMG, when you have teams that are doing what they're doing here and the development and the players in the NFL, when you've got a Puka Nacua that is doing what he's doing, all these other schools are like, maybe we should go to the state of Utah and take those big defensive linemen. Like, it was interesting in the playoffs this year. I'm seeing big Polynesians on all the teams. I'm like, that dude has a tribal tap. What's he doing there and not at the U or BYU or like wherever? How did they get him to Texas or wherever, So it's interesting to see. But the 26 recruiting, this has been a pivotal class, and I've been yelling it from the rooftops for years. And whoever can secure this class may be in the driving seat for the Big 12 for years to come.
Yeah, they very well might be. It's looking promising right now that it's going to be one of the best we've ever seen. The question will be how many guys can Utah land in the end? And that is a question that will be interesting to end up seeing the answer to. Moose, always appreciate making the time to come on. Where can everyone get more of your work at? And just tell everyone about all the things you're up to right now, my friend.
Well, we only have a little bit of an amount of time, but I'm heading out to Tampa. So you guys can catch me on the Utah Preps podcast still. You can catch me on Twitter at MooseB90. You can always reach out to me. I've got a course called Recruiting for Parents, helping you guys understand the recruiting game, what to ask for in NIL, what to do, all that stuff. I answer quickly and concisely in that course. Or if you have a very specific question, I do consultations as well.
Moose, you're the man. Appreciate making the time.
Anytime. Have a great one, JT.
And safe travels down to Tampa too, my friend, and hope you enjoy the sunshine. Thank you, all of you who make Locked On Utes your first listen of the day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. We have so much still to touch on when it comes to Kyle Whittingham's comments. We hope you'll join us tomorrow.